shy about it and very careful about it, primarily because I said, if I tell you about it, you're going to think I'm crazy. I said, you know what, I'm crazy too, so come on, tell me. But that's why. It's so difficult to express, it's so difficult to make sense out of these greater experiences, that those who have done so almost inevitably put them in poetic, mythic form, and then the people who read that or to hear it recited derive their own intimations, their own flashes of insight, are stimulated to similar experience themselves. And so I think we can rest assured that if we try to do that, and if others try to do that, then we may discover, not all at once perhaps, and not in an overwhelming mysterium tremendum as they put it in Latin, although sometimes that happens also, but in intimations that are like flashes of lightning, like the will-o'-the-wisp that moves over the countryside. We will begin to have intimations of an other reality that transcends earthly things, that transcends even the designer, and there we will find something that is true, there we will find something that is good, and something that is beautiful. Now, am I implying that there is nothing good and nothing true and nothing beautiful around here? Well, no, I'm not, and if I believed that, then I think I would have committed suicide long ago, because I wouldn't want to stay in a place like that, not even a minute. No, there is much here. It's a checkerboard. That's why the demiurge has been called the half-maker, the very word that has coined, I think, by Plato, or at least used by Plato. And there is much here that is beautiful, and there is some here that is good. And there are nice and interesting stimuli all over the place. But as certain mystery schools have intimated when they made the tessellated pavement, which is like a checkerboard of their temples, black, white, good, bad. You see? That's the way it is here. But there is something else which is all good, where the bad is no longer there, where the flaw is no longer present. But when we can't make, and most people don't even have the opportunity to think about it, because this kind of idea, this kind of information never comes to them. If it comes to them with their monotheistic mind, they reject it. But if we can come to contemplate and maybe tentatively accept that, then we have an entirely different situations. And then we don't need Christopher Hitchens and others to attack, because we know that things are dicey with this lower deity or this lower consciousness or whatever we wish to call it. But we have also come to learn by way of some of our experience that there is something really good and wise beyond, and that we can make contact with that. And that is what people have called salvation. And that is what people have called enlightenment, and by various and sundry names. Until that happens, and to those to whom this kind of recognition in some form, I don't insist that this recognition has to come exactly in the form of the old Gnostics. After all, I love the old boys and girls back there, and I'm affinitized to them, and I love their poetry, and I love their visions, and so forth. But, there were 1600, 1700 years ago that they were around. A lot of things have changed, and people see things in a different way. But in some fashion, in some way, by whatever means, come to that understanding, then we're so much better off. So if, for instance, you wonder why someone like Mother Teresa, the Albanian Christian woman who went to India and who gave her life and everything that she was and everything that she had for the poorest of the poor. Really one of the most admirable people, I think, in the history of the world. And yet now there is somewhat overblown, I think, this hullabaloo about her journals, her letters, which in the course of her canonization process have been discovered and are being published. And then we have things like one of those great sources of wisdom and truth in our culture called Newsweek magazine. It's sort of a part of the New Testament of America. The Old Testament is the Reader's Digest. And so Newsweek magazine wants something written about Mother Teresa. Who do they ask to write about her? Christopher Hitchens. Well, this is, kind of difficult. It's like, I don't know, asking Lenin to write an article about the virtues of capitalism. It just doesn't really work. It doesn't really work. And so, of course, he wrote, all right, and he quoted and everything else, but here is a not only dyed in the wool, but a militant atheist. And that's whom you ask to write about somebody like Mother Teresa. But, even he has some good things to say. And here are some of the quotations that Hitchens had put from Mother Teresa in his article in September 10th issue of Newsweek magazine. Here are some of the things that she told her various advisors and wrote in her letters, he says. For me the silence and the emptiness is so great that I look and do not see, listen and do not hear. The tongue moves but does not speak. Such deep longing for God and repulsed, empty, no faith, no love, no zeal. The saving of souls holds no attraction. Heaven means nothing. What do I labor for? If there be no God, there can be no soul. If there is no soul, then Jesus, you also are not true. And Christopher Hitchens comments, like an old-fashioned Morse signal, the cryptic and dot-dash punctuation somehow serves to emphasize and amplify her distress. Well, of course it's a complex issue that requires all sorts of trajectories to understand, but as other writers on the issue have pointed out, that perhaps one of the difficulties here also is the kind of God that she was trying to relate to. We don't really know. But it also needs to be remembered that in the spiritual life of great saints and of great souls, there are always periods of profound darkness and dejection, dark nights of the soul, and which seems to be, very largely just really part of the picture. But here also one wonders whether if this great and noble soul had had a little different God image, if she had not swallowed the dogma without any modification and without any question, if she had had a little intimation of the subtle differences that exist between what might appear to be the ultimate God and the true God itself, that she might not have suffered so, although we cannot really know. But I think we do know this much, that we live in strange and crucial times. Of course, every age is strange, and many ages are crucial, and it is always the best of times and always the worst of times. But one of the important characteristics of this period is that there is what the existentialists long ago used to refer to a transvaluation going on. And that transvaluation has to do, in this case, with the spiritual foundations of our culture, right down to God, right down to the image, to the concept of the reality of God. And if that transvaluation can proceed in a manner which is ultimately productive, then I